Hello and welcome to my channel. Another scroll saw cutting. This is the Tree of Life. I'm utilizing the other piece of wood that I processed a week or so ago. I believe it's walnut or cherry. I'm really not sure, to be honest, but it was beautiful to cut. I have been so looking forward to doing this particular pattern and was just waiting for the right piece of wood. But when I started drilling the holes, the access holes for doing the cuts, I think there was 85 plus cutouts. I was a little bit intimidated by that. But when I first started doing this, I was having trouble turning the corners. And I really didn't want to deal with that. So what I did here is I tried to use a spiral blade, thinking that would work better. And as you can see here, I got just a little ways and done. Right back to the other blade. Spiral blade was not going to work, so I had to fix that little bit there, and I kept on with the cutting. What I finally realized was I wasn't making the turns fast enough to make those corner cuts, and that was my problem. I was doing it too slow and it was just going offline. So I resolved that. I was able to use the number 5 ultra reverse and with no more issues. And the cutting in the corners did real well. There were some of the smaller cuts that I pieced it, but which is fine. I didn't have any issues with that. The only real issue I had was turning those corners fast enough. And what I ended up having to do is to cut off the excess on this board, and you'll see that in a little bit, just to bring it down a little bit smaller so that I wasn't constantly trying to work around it. You know, it's only 2 or 3 inches on either side, but it made all the difference once I cut off that excess. When I bought this saw, I bought it used, and so I got it for half the price of what a brand new one would have cost. Having said that, you know, I expect there to be issues. I expect there to be some things that just going to need to be addressed. I've always known that the thumb screw for tightening the blade down was sloppy. But because I had zero experience with scroll saws, I really didn't know whether that was normal or not. And as I progressed with this cut, it became more and more difficult for me to get the blade secured. Now, I do know that those are wearable parts, the thumb screw and the set screw, and that's why they sell kits to replace them as needed. But what ended up happening here was I got to the point where the thumb screw was stripped. It just wouldn't tighten at all on the chuck head. So I replaced it with a new one after I pulled out some of the shards of threads, which you'll see here. It was ridiculous. I thought it was the actual thumb screw that was stripping out. But the more I looked at it and the more I thought about it, I'm going, nah, that's probably not the case. But I continued on anyway. So I decided to replace the set screw as well. And in doing that, I realized that set screw was still sloppy a little bit in there. Even that thumb screw was still loose, but I was able to get it set, get it lined up again, and make sure that the blade was perpendicular to the table. Just, you know, your normal maintenance to make sure you're all set. So after having done that, I was able to start cutting again, and I got through quite a bit actually. I thought, okay, well, that solved the problem. I got through several months of it being loose, etc. on the first thumb screw. If the thumb screw is a problem, I'm not going to have an issue for quite a while. So these cuts were going great. The blade was tightening down actually much better than it ever has in a long time. And so I just kept going and, you know, didn't really have any issues. Until, yeah, of course, until it did get to the point where the thumb screw stripped out again. And while I was very annoyed, my gut told me that this was going to happen. My gut was telling me that the thumb screw wasn't a problem, it was the threads inside the head. Now I have to come up with a plan. And, you know, the bottom line is, no matter what I did here, I was going to have to get new heads for this machine. And I finally went to trying something else because I wanted to continue cutting that day. And I thought, you know, genius, I'll take the screws and the thumb screw and swap them. Put the thumb screw on the left and put the set screw on the right. And I haven't done that yet here in the video, but that's what I decided to do. Amazingly enough, I was extremely surprised that the thumb screw and the set screw, when I swapped sides, actually fit snug and tight. I couldn't believe it. I mean, it was amazing. Just truly amazing. So now that I've got the thumb screw on the left, I thought, okay, I can do this. No, that wasn't going to happen. I probably got, I don't know, 3 or 4 cuts in, and I said, you know what? It's time to place an order. It's simple as that. So while the thumb screw being on the left did solve the problem, I was able to continue cutting. It was very awkward, and I really was unable to utilize it. The air nozzle was in the way. I'm left-handed, but doing that left-handed was awkward. So I did end up placing an order, and if I get it on time, that'll be next week's video. Otherwise, I'm not sure how I'm going to handle next week's video because I can't do any more cutting. But as you can see in the pictures, this is what I got. It's a mess. The threads are toast, and I have to do what I have to do. If you got this far in the video, thanks for watching. Appreciate it. See you next week.